'Cause I'm yours to keep if you want to.
All right.
You know,
Are we ready to go?
we're ready to go, Ma.
All right. What's the format now? It's up to you.
Yeah, I mean, there really isn't a format. I'm kind of curious to see, how it goes with starting with just like, where are you from?
Did you freeze?
That's on you, Ma. You forgot where you're from?
Did you freeze?
I'm up first. Okay, I'm from Passaic, New Jersey.
How long did you live there?
Not sure.
Well, I mean, like not specifically there, but like how long did you live in New Jersey?
Probably 18 years.
And what was it like living in New Jersey when you were younger?
It's farm country. We just were free to roam anywhere and go everywhere. And we lived about 30 minutes out of Manhattan, so we'd sneak in on the bus to Manhattan.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
What age were you doing that?
Probably when I was in junior high school.
Okay.
So like 7th or 8th grade, we just hop on the bus, go in and have some Chinese food, and come back.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What about you, Neely?
I was born in Los Angeles. Lived in East Los Angeles, Monterey Park, for about 12 or 13 years when I was growing up. And then we moved to Beverly Hills. And I went to school, elementary school and high school. And, stayed in California for most of my early business career. And moved to Utah in my early, my early 30s.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife and I, Gail and I, raised our family there.
Yeah.
And it was a great place for them to grow up and for us to live. And the kids learned all about living in the country and living in the city. And I think it was a great experience for both of them. And it was a great experience for Gail and I as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was pretty awesome living there. What about what was your first job?
Me?
Yeah.
I worked in a bakery.
Yeah? Doing what? Were you
selling baked goods.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like a sales cashier as opposed to like a chef?
Yeah. No chef stuff.
Yeah. Do you like it?
Yeah, it was fun. I knew all
What
my
age were you?
customers. 15.
Okay. Was your first
Yeah.
job?
Well, I used to babysit when I was, 12 or 13.
Yeah.
And let's see, what else did I do? When I was working at the bakery, I used to help with catering at people's homes.
Oh, okay.
And when I was a kid, I sold cookies.
Did you make them?
Made butter cookies, yep, and sold them door to door.
Huh.
So that was like my first
Official job?
business. I wanted to figure out how to make money.
Yeah? How'd it go?
Well, my mother said that she spent more money on the ingredients than I did making money, but I did make money because I went door to door, and I guess people felt sorry for me. And the cookies are good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Uh-huh.
What about you, Neely?
Well, I've been working, actually,
What was your first job?
first job was, First job was probably a paper route.
Yeah?
And when they used to have newspapers,
Did you walk or bike?
I biked. I had a little bag on my bike, and woke up in the morning and rolled up the papers with rubber bands, and had a route that I dropped off. We either tossed them to somebody's front yard, or I walked up the stairway if it was an apartment building, and did that for a couple of summers. And then I worked at a market for a little bit of time as a box boy when I was like 15, and when I was 16. I started working downtown Los Angeles in the garment business.
You're
In the
driving?
summers. I was working downtown before I drove, and then bought a car when I was 16 and drove down to work, and worked in the summers, and also worked on the weekends at work swap meets,
Oh, okay.
selling clothes. And then from there we developed some clients that we brought product over to their house during the week at night while I was in high school. So I worked pretty much throughout all my high school, and then started a business when I was, I think, 18, a garment manufacturing company with a friend and a partner, and did that for several years. So I was in the garment business.
What was that called?
The first one was called Domino of California, and one of our clothing lines was called Tomboy. And
Was there a significance to Domino?
just the name I came up with. I just kind of like our logo was was a domino.
Yeah.
Don't know why that came to mind, but that's what we used. Sounded good, Domino of California, and that's what we called ourselves. And we built the business over the years, and then I sold out my interest in my mid to late 20s to my partner, and I went into business with my dad, who was in a similar business. So I joined him and worked with him for several years.
What about you, Ma? After the bakery?
Well, after the bakery, I had a lot of different jobs.
Yeah.
I worked as a waitress. I spent the summers at Seaside Heights
Yeah.
with the mob at the restaurants.
As a waitress?
As a waitress, yeah, made good money there. Then I became a flight attendant after college. And during college, I worked in a bar and I worked bussing tables. I had 2 jobs.
And where did you go to college?
I started at Wesleyan in West Virginia and then graduated from West Virginia University.
Okay.
And then I, I did the waitressing there, and then I became a flight attendant for a couple of years. And then after that, just
That was right out of college? Pretty
yeah,
much?
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was studying for my master's
Oh, cool.
in
I didn't
psychology.
know that.
Yeah, and I decided I was kind of burnt out, and I decided I wanted to travel the world. So I did that for a couple of years.
Cool. I had no
Got
idea.
to go overseas, yeah. I got to go with the USO over to Vietnam. And after that, I had my first marriage and had a lot of odd jobs.
How old were you when you got married?
Probably 25.
Oh, wow. I didn't. Yeah, I honestly never really knew.
Yeah, 25. And about 5 years later, I was divorced. And then during that time, I worked for Playboy. And then I did commercial real estate for 8 years. And then I had Tyler.
Where were you living when you were doing all that?
In California. I moved to California in 1978. Before that, I was living all over the country with my first husband. So we lived in a lot of different states because he was doing medical, all these different blood work, heart work, gynecology, all different states.
Yeah.
So we'd live there for a couple months and then move on.
Did you move when you moved to California? Did you move with him? Or you moved
No,
to
I
California?
moved by myself.
Okay.
I was going for my nursing degree at that time. I had 2 more college years in, and then I didn't make it into the nursing school because there were 17 people in front of me that had A+. I had A-.
Oh, shit. Was that competitive?
That
Or like
competitive.
that tight?
That tight.
Wow.
Yeah. So I
Where was
asked.
the
I even
school?
asked the dean. I said, what's my shot? And he said, nope. And he said, you're 17 on the waiting list. I tried to bribe my chemistry teacher and asked him to give me an A, and he refused to give me he gave me an A-. And had an
And that was the
argument.
difference?
Yeah, it would have been a big difference. It would have pushed me up the line.
Yeah.
So I just packed up there and moved to California.
Huh.
So yeah, I just loaded up my car. Also taught, at that point in time, I taught exercise classes and I had my own physical ed class. And let's see, what else did I do? I had a lot of different jobs.
I knew a handful of those. I don't know how many of those you knew
Oh.
about, but I didn't know about
When
a
I was
majority of those.
When I was first married, also, I was a nurse's aide. I worked in oncology and geriatrics for all the years that I was married to my first husband. So, and in those days, we got to do a lot of different things. It wasn't just being a nurse's aide. You could give drugs. You could do blood transfusions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was very rewarding working with oncology.
Huh.
And geriatrics, unfortunately, people were going to die
Yeah.
on your shift. So,
Yeah,
we
I
were
got a
kind
lot of experience with that.
yeah, watching people transition or helping people transition. Yeah, it was a good job.
What about you, Neely?
Well, I worked on and off throughout high school. When I graduated high school, I was pretty much working at that point full time, but I signed up and went to junior college in Santa Monica. for a couple of years. But I was working, so I wasn't really paying that much attention to school. But it was also during the height of the Vietnam War, and I was a student, so I avoided being drafted. And then when I finally did get drafted, I went down to the draft board, which is kind of an Alice's Restaurant, kind of a crazy story with a couple hundred people in the room, and it was very much black and whites that were against each other. So I walked in to the room, and all the black guys were sitting up front and telling all the white guys, "Time for you to go to the back of the room." And then the day was was a nightmare of a day, but spent the day going from station to station. Went down with 4 or 5 friends. We all got drafted. Fortunately, we all got deferments for one reason or another, medical deferments or student deferments, and continued back in college for a couple of years, and then ended up after 2 years, worked full time and started a company. I was working in downtown Los Angeles, and that was kind of the path to my garment manufacturing career. I got married when I was in my early 20s, but I was very busy working and traveling a lot, and so had 2 terrific daughters, but the marriage wasn't the right one, and that ended after 7 or 8 years, and continued to work and met your mom.
Yeah.
And we started going out and got engaged and lived together, and then got married up at Pebble Beach and continued to work for another several years. And at some point in my mid to late 30s, I think I just took a break from business, and
You went to the restaurant business.
Oh yeah,
No,
that was later.
Yeah.
So when Gail and I got married, we lived in Malibu. We lived in Beverly Hills for a while, and after in the early 30s, we decided to try a different lifestyle. So we moved to Park City. When you and your brother were very young, and we spent a terrific family life in Park City for all your years growing up, and we traveled a lot and worked, had restaurant business there, and did some real estate development with a couple partners, and was always in business, doing one thing or another.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that from pretty much my whole childhood, just coming in and seeing you doing spreadsheet type work or.
Yep. And then when we bought a piece of property in the mountains of Utah, so we built a ranch from scratch and built barns and built a house and did all the maintenance and landscaping, and that was just the first time I really was involved in nature, and it felt like the right place for me to be and for my family, and it was a very ideal childhood for you 2 guys, you and your brother.
Yeah.
You had all your horses.
And we had horses, and learned to do all the winter outdoor activities.
Cattle.
What's that?
We had cattle.
Yeah, we had cattle, we had horses. It was a very small working ranch that was called Dos Amigos. Another friend, Tony Thomas, was the other amigo, and so I bought our lot first, and then his lot became available, and he decided to buy it from a different seller, and so we ended up forming this little ranch called the Dos Amigos Ranches, and the Thomases and the Bretons built homes and raised their families there.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Growing up with all that.
And of course, we always traveled, so we went to Mexico a lot and went to Europe, and we actually for 6 months in 1999 we moved. Gail and I and you and your brother moved to Italy for school and to experience living in Europe, and that was a great time. Came back in the end of 1999, and just had a very active, full life. I traveled, I worked, had lots of hobbies, and it was a very, very busy, very happy life that we lived for. And then eventually we started going to Mexico and decided that might be a nice place to buy a retirement home, or a place we'd go live in the off season when the winters were getting a little too tiresome. So we bought this property in Acamal, Mexico, and over a couple of year period built a home, and then we moved there and lived there 6 months of the year, and lived in Utah 6 months of the year, and it's a nice way to live life.
Was it difficult to find, I guess, like to buy the land and build the house? Was it was that a difficult process?
It wasn't difficult. We were very fortunate that we found a real estate broker who had a sign on the lot that we ended up buying, and his name was Hector Moreno, and Hector kind of became our personal, a personal guide in terms of how to set up a corporation, how to buy the land. He helped find a contractor. We met with architects.
Yeah.
And so he was very instrumental in helping us get the house permitted and then built. And then we had friends came in and furnished it. A friend of ours in particular came in, and we were
Cousin Ronnie.
Yeah. So it was just a great time, and what was it? You and your brother and your two sisters, and eventually our grandkids, all really loved this
Cousin Ronnie
place.
and your dad driving a van down to Mexico.
A lot of stories that have to take the time to think about, but a lot of interesting travels throughout my life.
Yeah.
And lived in Mexico, now we live in Hermosa Beach part of the time, and looking for the next adventure.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's a little hard looking at the state of affairs right now to figure out what the next adventure is going to be when you just look around the world right now, and even the country, and just try to figure out what part of the country seems like a good inhabitable place to try to live a somewhat comfortable life that still has access to all the things you like and isn't overly crowded.
Right now it's a challenge, but I've been around long enough to know that these challenges come and go, and you just have to weigh them out, and things show up for you. So you just got to be open to change and adventure, and somehow it finds you.
Yeah.
And so I've been very lucky that made a lot of great friendships over the years with some really interesting people, artists and musicians and business people, and just a lot of interesting characters.
Yeah.
That have remained a part of my life, which kind of defines my life. I have some really special friendships that I have a list of what I call my crazy friends, and it's about 10 or 12 people that are very
I think
very
Dad's
unique.
on their list as well.
What's that?
I said, I think you're on their list as well.
Maybe. Could be.
Could be.
Could be.
The Neil Breton accident list.
Yeah, there's a long list there.
Injuries. Doing crazy, wonderful things.
Yeah.
If people have followed you.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably pretty big. I always think of that just being like a lot of your California friends coming to Utah. I mean, just that's such a different lifestyle, different kind of activities that you do, whether it's horseback riding or snowmobiling. I think those are like the two main things. I remember people flying out to visit you guys.
Yeah, we went
to come do
motorcycle
that.
riding, and also went fly fishing. Horseback riding was a lot of fun for a lot of my friends from California.
Snowmobiling at night.
We snowshoe. We had snowshoe parties. We had a very full. I did a lot of. Gail was a terrific hostess, and we did a lot of parties.
When we had cattle, we gave away 2-pound packages of ground beef as a going away for the evening.
Tracy told me about you guys having big parties here, like when you lived in California.
In July. At our beach house.
July the 4th, for sure.
Yeah.
We had parties at our house in town in Spalding.
Yeah.
On Spalding Drive, we had a couple of big, beautiful birthday parties.
Great parties.
And I think mostly birthday parties.
Graduation parties, birthday parties, celebrating 30th, 40th. When the kids came along, we'd have a party.
Yeah.
So we had parties at the beach. We used to have a very big July 4th party every year at our beach house. We had two different houses, and we had parties at each of them, and we'd have 75, 80, 100 people. And
were they all people you knew, or would it eventually just kind of be like
people that we knew, and some of the neighbors that came by?
Yeah.
And we had giant bonfires, and we go to Nevada and buy fireworks that were illegal in California, and just had these wild parties with me and a couple of friends were the pyrotechnic part of the parties, and so my cousin Ronnie and my friend Richard and Yeah, we used to put on quite a show.
Speaking of strangers, when I was pregnant, very pregnant with Tyler, we decided to have a singles party. So we had all our friends that were single reach out to other single friends.
Yeah.
And we didn't know hardly any of them. And some of our married friends came
Huh.
to the singles party. At
That's
the
pretty
beach.
funny.
Yeah, it was wild.
Was it the house?
It was at the beach house, yeah. Yeah, we met some very interesting people that way. And we were always trying to broaden our horizons, to meet different people.
So would you would just pick a day and be like, oh, Friday night we're gonna have a party and just tell friends, and then it would just grow from that,
we
or do
actually
you ever?
It was a little more planned, a
planning.
little more planned out than that. We usually have caterer and musicians. Sometimes we had music, or we had DJs. So we had so these were pretty elaborate parties.
Yeah.
Beach parties where there was catered with really good food and good music and good entertainment. So it was.
You had the Utah parties.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah,
I kind
you were
of the more you
for-
talk about it, the more I kind of vaguely remember like catering being upstairs at the cabin outside and having. I don't know. I don't really remember music. I don't know if you
country
guys really had
western?
music when we
No, we
did
didn't.
those.
We had country western
Yeah, we did a couple
guys.
times. And we also had parties at the Lucky John.
I remember that. I don't really remember
too.
too many parties there though. I feel like maybe it was like obviously my bar mitzvah. I feel like was a lot of people
Yeah.
that came into town for that. I don't know if it was maybe one of your birthdays, either one of your birthdays. I feel like I don't really feel like we had that many of those kind of parties at the house that I can remember.
50th was at the house.
Yeah, we had,
Was it?
we had-
in Utah. My 40th was in California. It was a big party. Big party. I was pregnant with you.
That's great.
Well, when we lived in Utah, I'm just remembering, we joined a country club there. We helped. We were very actively involved in building a synagogue. We'd also been involved building a synagogue in Malibu.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Before?
so, on PCH. Yeah, we did that when you were.
I had no idea.
Yeah, you were little, and you
I didn't really-
actually went to, I guess, preschool there.
Yeah,
At the one you
temple.
guys helped.
Yeah, build on PCH.
Yeah, you were 3.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
You also participated in one of the runs. You were the youngest participant to finish. You got a medal
My only medal I'll ever get
for a 5K.
for running.
That's pretty cute.
That's crazy. I had no idea. So what? How did you get involved in building synagogues?
Well, in the case of the one in Malibu, Casey, your older sister, had decided she wanted to get bat mitzvahed, and we looked around for a synagogue, and there was just a small facility in really a trailer, not much more than a trailer, that was just being built in Malibu. So we got involved, met the rabbi, got involved with them doing the construction
Some fundraising.
and fundraising, and we helped. We spent time doing the landscaping and overseeing some of the construction, raised some money for it.
Yeah.
So it became a first temple that was really a permanent facility in Malibu. And we got to Utah, the same thing. It was a matter of we wanted you boys to know about your Jewish heritage, and the only religious facility was down in Salt Lake, and that really wasn't convenient.
Yeah.
But we did take you there for a year, and then we met a few couples, and these couples who all lived in Park City all decided that we ought to see if we can get together and start forming some kind of a Jewish community.
Yeah.
And we did. On Friday nights, we would meet at someone's house.
I remember that when I was little.
And then more people came along, and then we had a couple of high holiday dinners
Yeah.
at the hotel that we.
Your brother came home
arranged.
in the first grade and said, "I want to be Catholic." And your dad and I looked at each other. He said, "I want only Jew in the class."
Here,
And so
or that
you're-
was in Utah. Or no, first
Utah.
grade. First grade for
Utah,
him was
first
Utah.
grade, yeah. Your dad came to school with gelt, the coins, the
Yeah.
chocolate coins, and explained to the kids in the first grade. They were all looking around at us like we were foreign objects. They'd never heard of Jewish people before. That's how bad it was
Wow, that's crazy.
in Park City.
Huh. I didn't really know that either.
Yeah, he was the only Jewish kid in his class.
Yeah, I think I was.
Well,
Two.
you
Yeah,
made a couple
you were
friends.
at the
I think Bryce was. Bryce was.
Montessori.
Yeah, that's true.
You
Ty,
were-
Ty wasn't in Montessori when we
He
first
went
moved there?
no, he went there for a year.
He went there in the 4th grade.
Oh, okay. So
Fourth,
he did
yeah.
other just
He
traditional?
stayed in public school.
Okay.
Hmm.
Elementary school for that first period.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then when we were in Park City, one of the businesses, and I remember now, was a friend of mine had founded La Salsa Mexican restaurants in Los
Yep.
Angeles, and we made a deal where I had the rights for Utah, so we opened up a handful of locations in Utah, La Salsa restaurants, and
Didn't you have the rates for Colorado, Nevada
yeah, then we
as
had
well?
we had the rights for a few
Neighboring states.
of the Intermountain states, and
Mhm.
we ended up just staying in Utah, and
At 5 locations.
yeah, and then during that period we decided that it'd be nice to move to Italy, so we took you and your brother when you were little,
Yep.
and we lived in Italy when you were
10.
10 and 12 or 10 and 13,
Mhm.
and that was kind of came from all my experiences traveling Europe all those years
Yeah.
earlier in the garment business. Going to Europe, I made a good friendship with a guy named Giulio Travellini, who was a tour guide, and he kind of drove Mom and I around to various stores shopping for design ideas in Rome, and then we went
lot
to
of
Florence
food.
and went to Venice.
A lot
How'd
of-
you meet Julio initially?
He was a guide.
Just,
At-
but it was like a random. You're just looking
Yeah,
for a guide, and
A
it
guide
just was
at a
like
hotel, at the Hassler Hotel,
crazy.
and he was recommended to us, and he spoke English, and we hit it off, and
It was the
just
early
became
80s.
became very good friends, and he arranged for us to find a house.
You know, we owned a hotel in Lampedusa with him.
Yeah, I saw that hotel.
Yeah,
And you worked on a fishing boat when you were 16 in Lampedusa.
Yep.
Yeah, you stayed
for
with Julio
summer.
and his family,
Yeah, stayed in our hotel.
and you had pasta with wild boar,
Yeah,
and champagne. And,
Yeah. With his parents cooking everything. That was
Yeah.
pretty great.
pretty wild.
Yeah.
You were pretty brave to go by yourself.
Yeah, I mean, Julio at that point really felt like he was like as
Family.
close of an
Yeah, he
uncle.
was, he
Yeah,
was,
I mean,
he was. He really adored.
be-
Well, he adored you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he really was.
Nicola.
He was thrilled to. He called you the little. Always thought you was a little old man. He thought you were, even as a kid, he thought you were something. There was some wisdom that he could see in you beyond your years. So yeah, he was a great friend, and we did some business in Italy, and he bought me a motorcycle, or he helped me find a motorcycle and a car, and we toured all over Italy, both in the car with you guys on the weekends, and
He found a rental. He
And-
found a bank
yeah,
account for
yeah.
us. I mean, he,
So we
he
did a lot
found
of
food, which basically he found more food than anything.
Yeah,
traveled.
I know.
We traveled to France
we
with
ate,
him.
We ate everywhere with him.
Yeah, it was the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a terrific friend and fun to be with, and so yeah, we've done a lot of fun things in our life. Your mom and I have had a very full 70 some odd years of
Yeah, no, for sure.
adventures and friends, and
Still going.
Yeah, still going.
it's a lot to try to recall and remember.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, even for me, I feel like you guys have packed so much into my life. I have a hard time remembering like the
Yeah,
chapters
yeah.
of life I've had, and that's of still
Yeah,
less than
there
half
there
of what
wasn't
you
very-
guys have.
yeah. There wasn't very much downtime in our lives. We always seemed like there was
On the move.
some activity, some adventure.
We were
you know,
camping. We were traveling. We were going everywhere.
Yeah.
With the last like year and a half, pretty much. I mean, I know you guys still go back and forth to Mexico, but has that been with getting older, I guess I would say, but also just with the restrictions from COVID, like a big thing that has been a big setback, or has it been kind of enjoyable to have that, like
Well,
slowed down?
I'm not used to this much quiet time.
Yeah,
It's an adjustment. I mean, it could be partly getting older, but I don't really acknowledge my age so much. So I
Yeah,
really
I mean,
don't
I
think
don't
about me being in my 70s until I try to do something that I can't do
yeah,
when I was
physically.
like I did when I was in my 30s or
Yeah,
COVID didn't
40s.
stop
or
me.
Yeah, COVID didn't really slow us down. We
No.
lived
Yeah.
our
I
lives.
had easy COVID. I was in Mexico for 5 months of 2020
Yeah.
We were very busy. We were not
2020
homebound
and
at all by COVID.
2021.
yeah,
So, it was
relatively easy to.
yeah, we could come and go as we pleased. We couldn't go to Europe, which I would have liked to have done.
Yeah,
But and I think the one thing that's missing, especially for your father, is the fishing, the horseback riding, not so much hunting.
Yeah.
But I think the outdoor activities are a little tough here in California.
I mean, I feel that
Hiking.
way too.
Yeah.
I feel like just because we grew up with so much of that stuff, I
Yeah,
feel
so,
like
yeah.
it's really like
It's greatly missed.
it is. It's really like a very one-dimensional life being here. Like for me, I mean, thankfully, I love my work, so that makes up for being here.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it's very like I don't really feel like I have very few friends that are not from work, which
Right.
is something I look at. Like you guys, I mean, obviously, I think it was probably still people from high school, which I still
high school and just wherever we live. We always seem to. I mean, we moved to Utah. We didn't really know anybody there at all.
yeah.
We literally didn't know anybody. We met the first couple. I think was Debbie and JD because through you guys at school.
Yeah.
And
But,
Debbie
you
and
know,
I were older moms.
And I knew my
Yes,
partner Paul Marsh because he was in the same condo building that we were in,
Oh, really?
and that's how we started Park Meadows. I mean, we started La Salsa.
Huh.
He and I were partners in that business, and
I didn't know he lived in that.
yeah, he was from
Condo.
LA, and he had a condo there, and I met him as a
In the house.
as a member of the board of Shadow Ridge, the condo where
Yeah.
we lived, and and so we were friends. And through him, I met other people over the we met people throughout the years we lived there. We met people from Florida. We met through the Jewish Community Center. We met a handful of couples, and through the ranch, I met people, farmers and guys who were contractors, and through the restaurant, I met people. So it was always
We liked
some avenue to
entertaining.
meet
We liked
people.
having all your friends over.
Yeah.
You know, that was the place to be, was our house.
For sure. I mean,
And-
all my friends look at you guys as second parents.
Yeah. Mama G.
Yeah, we really liked having all your friends around, and
Yeah.
we liked, we enjoyed being around younger people. It was always
It's
where
kind
we
of
got a lot of fun from.
the animal phase of our life. We must have had 15 different kinds of pets.
Yeah.
You know, everything as big as a horse down to a mouse.
Do you
Yeah.
have animals before us?
Yeah, I always
Dogs.
yeah. I had pets my whole life. Only dogs. I had dogs. I mean, when I was in my early years, I had dogs when we moved to Beverly Hills. I had dogs when I had my own home. I had German Shepherds.
We had a
I had
bird
golden
in
retrievers.
California that used to walk away from you as fast as he could.
From me?
From you, because the bird knew you would go to any pet. The bird knew that you were tracking it, and it would sidestep every time it saw you coming. We have video of that bird saying, It was pretty cute.
Huh.
Yeah, he was a son conure. He was loose in our house.
Oh,
So,
that's
yeah.
cool. Was
Yeah.
it a mess to keep that kind
Yeah.
of bird?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just should it just be random place
It
or
had,
knew
its
how
own
to?
little, it had its little cage, but most of the time it was loose in our house.
Would it just?
Yeah.
Was it like? I mean, does it have like a bathroom training kind of a thing? Like, does it know to go to
It
the
knew
bathroom in its
go-
cage?
Yeah, it didn't go in our house.
Yeah, that's
so,
what
yeah.
I was getting at.
But we had dogs, obviously. You know, it's always had dogs.
Yeah.
So
Do you have animals growing up?
no, my parents were not big on. Eventually, I got a dog when Robin was little, my youngest sister. But no, we didn't. We didn't have pets. We didn't have time for pets. We were always busy doing something that weren't home to do pets.
Yeah.
So yeah, but when you kids were little, we had
Yeah.
the pet circus.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty great. We had
Yeah.
a pretty awesome little.
Yeah, we
Until the
always
snakes
we
got
always-
loose in
yeah.
the house, and the lizard died, and your brother refused to sleep in his room once the snakes got loose in the house.
Yeah, it was pretty great. I
That was
remember
pretty
that.
Funny, yeah. And they had like 4 friends in the house, and I said $10 to the first person that finds the snake.
I remember that.
Yeah, and the snake was coming out of the faucet in the
Yeah. No,
in
the
drain.
drain. Yeah, like the
the-
overspill hole in the
Yeah.
sink.
And one other one was under Tyler's bed, and that was when the snakes went out of the house.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and your gerbils lived for like 10 years. They had their own vacation home,
Yeah.
and they had a track going from your room to Tyler's room.
Really?
Yeah, we had tracks laid down.
I don't
you know,
remember him
and
going
he was
from
in a
room to room.
ball, remember?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and he had like a little vacation condo. It was cute.
Yeah, those were great, actually.
Yeah, you had 2 of those, the longest living gerbils.
Yeah,
Ever.
Guinness Book World Records.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also remember when we lived on the golf course and you had a little motorcycle.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I'll never
You
forget
had a
that.
Honda 50, and then we got you a
We-
Honda 75, and we had a
No,
Honda.
excuse me. It was Mom who bought the first bike.
Okay.
and
Was
got-
it?
Yeah, I got crucified by it with your dad and the psychologist. He said, "Do you believe my wife bought my son a 50?" And I'm like,
I don't
"Yeah."
remember. I honestly don't remember how that showed up at all. I remember riding it. I remember riding it around our house, like obsessively, just literally riding in circles around the house.
And on
Well,
the
not
golf
only
course.
that, and
That was the next one, and I remember buying that one with you when I got to 70, and that was the first motorcycle that had a clutch.
Right.
And I remember being in the parking lot with you, or the guy, I think it was you, just saying, easily let go of the clutch, and I just like cranked the gas and just let go of the clutch, and it just shot out from under me and just smashed into the back of somebody's car.
Yeah.
I was like, literally, just the bike just fully shot out from underneath me, and I was just like standing there, like, holy shit.
in order to drive your 50 on the road, I put on my flashers, since we lived in a neighborhood that was like 5-mile loop, and you drove in front of me, and I drove in back of you with the flashers on, so you could be on the.
I remember
Road.
that actually.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. So you could just take it around,
Yeah.
and then you got loose on the golf course.
Yeah, I remember
which
that
was,
too.
Which was not allowed, but you decided to jump some hills and.
Yeah, I remember falling and having one of our neighbors somehow randomly found me out there. It was like after the sprinklers went off. That was the only time I've ever
Fallen?
laid a bike down. Yeah.
You laid a bicycle down also.
And I smashed into the back of a parked car.
Yeah.
I remember that. I'll never forget that. I literally thought I ripped my nuts off. I just like was looking back to try to see where Charlie was coming down the hill. And I just literally went right into the back of that and
I
slid
heard
up the
it.
back of it.
I heard it about a mile up the hill.
Yeah.
I was
You
like,
remember when we built the
is he dead?
the dirt track on
Yeah.
at the ranch?
Yeah.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on the ranch. I mean, we taught you learn how to fly fish there. You
Yeah.
and your brother.
That was
Oh,
You
but
guys learn how to.
He was 4 and he could wield both of you. We went to Stew Pot Lake
I remember that.
and you were 4 and 6, and I was like, oh crap, we're giving them fly gear, and you and your brother just put it in. You got your first fish, and
Yeah.
both of you were able to manage a fly rod, which is really unusual.
I think I remember. I only really remember that because of pictures, but I remember, like, I actually remember going to the
First
Falcon
fish.
sledge.
Oh
Falcons
yeah,
Ledge, well, yeah, we had that was a
it was
fishing
a
lodge.
birthday.
Yeah.
That was a
You
birthday
and I,
there.
You and I went, and
And
were you there?
Also, Jamie.
No, I'm talking about you and I went with Gino one time.
Yeah, I wasn't
went
there
there?
that time.
Yeah,
I think
you
we
and
went to the
yeah.
Green River when we did that.
No, that was
that was
another
to the
trip.
lodge.
Yeah, that was that was.
I loved that place.
Yeah, that was the
Yeah,
first.
I love the
That's the first
green,
place you caught fish. Right? You know, Gino took us.
To Falcons Lodge.
Yeah, Falcons Ledge.
Falcons Lodge was
Ledge?
a birthday,
Was
and
it
Jamie
Falcons?
and Casey were there
And then we
too.
also went there a second time. We went there a
birthday.
few times.
Yeah, I remember that. I
And
remember
the
going with
Green
Jamie
River-
and
the
Casey.
Green River.
I remember the girls trying to sink each other
Oh, I remember that.
in the fishing tubes.
With
yeah.
this, when you sit in the
The
individual
tubes,
things.
Yeah. uh-huh.
Float tubes.
Those things are awesome too. That's
I
such
like that float
yeah.
tube. Yeah, that was great.
And did Nick and Tyler go on a river rafting trip?
No, it was mostly Jamie and Casey went. Most of the time
Okay.
when I was pregnant with Tyler, you went, and then when I was pregnant with Nick, you went.
And Nick never went to Canada with us, right? Or Alaska. That was Tyler.
That
I
was
don't
Tyler.
think. Yeah, I think I was too little
Yeah.
for those.
Yeah.
Yeah. You weren't born yet.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I'm just thinking. I mean, getting back to what you're trying to do here. So do you want to give? So I think maybe you give somebody a theme.
I mean, it's
Or an
tough because you
outline?
travel around a lot. You know, like I had more of a, I had much more of like a linear plan in my head, but then obviously we're just kind of jumping around, and
Yeah,
it's
so-
it's a
We
little
digress.
well, it's a little hard to be like, okay, walk me through like your life from
Yeah.
the like, ideally like what's your first memory, and go forward, and
Yeah.
it's like there's so many tangents you can take in that.
Well, yeah. That's. I'm trying to figure out for you what's the best way to make this interesting.
Are we
Yeah.
turning
For
this
somebody.
off now?
No, I mean, well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you can act as if it's off. It doesn't. It's
Yeah, I'm
literally.
just saying,
I
but
mean, part of it is just I wanted to record like I don't know how long it's been, maybe an hour or something like that. I want to just see if my computer can manage recording for this
Right.
long and
Yeah, I'm
make
just
sure
saying-
there's
Not
no.
only that, I'm feeling like that's enough now.
Well,
in
I
other
mean,
words, like time-wise for me. How are you feeling?
Yeah, no, but it's also I feel like I'm jumping all around.
yeah,
And I don't know if other people will be as unfocused as I am, but for me, it's just trying to remember 60 years ago or 50 years
Yeah,
ago.
I think our age puts a
and
little
I'm not
dent in that.
remembering things chronologically.
I mean,
I'm
I
just
don't
remembering
think.
events, you know, things that birthday parties. I mean, there was things that happened.
Like we were talking about jobs. All of a sudden, after I'm finished talking about jobs, I go back and remember. Okay, wait, I had 5 other jobs.
Yeah.
In addition to what, because of age.
Well, I don't think that's age. I mean,
Yeah, you don't. I mean, look, you're looking at 50 years of jobs.
yeah, for sure. But
So-
I think which is, you know, it's helpful that we're doing this as a test.
Right.
And it's helpful that the three of us are here for all the things we started doing at the beginning, and I want to listen to this, on my computer, listen to it in headphones, see how the audio sounds. I mean,
Right,
obviously
right.
there's a lot of there's people outside eating food. There's a truck driving by to pick up trash. There's a door every time they open the restaurant.
That's something I noticed too. But the other thing is, I'm thinking about, okay, so if Kenny Griswold was sitting here, or Richard Rowley, or Tony, or any of my friends that you think are interesting, cousin Ronnie. I mean, I'm not sure how they would. I'm trying to think how they would handle an interview. I mean, would they who don't know you?
Tony would be
like
pointing
we do.
out everything.
So here's the difference, really, though, is
filming?
I wouldn't. This isn't the format. Like, it's one person, so it'd be me and you interviewing this person.
Right.
Whereas we can focus a bit more direct on that rather than, what were your jobs? What were your jobs? When were you at this age? When did you do this thing? What was this thing? Because that's too split. But if it's just, okay, let's go through your job history chronologically. If it is one job that spins into talking about traveling because you traveled with that job and this, and this, and then we can come back to, okay, after that job, what was the next thing? And we can focus that more. Whereas,
I'm just trying to find
Like,
what
what
would
was
be
the
interesting.
highlight of your jobs? Maybe you want to
well,
ask.
I'm interested in all that stuff. And I think you honestly just never know what people will find interesting. And throughout all this, like, this will be an hour and a half or however long it's been recording. I'd upload this as a whole episode, and then I'd also go back through this episode and find maybe like 2 or 3 clips and be like, Gail talked about being a baker, or whatever,
Right.
Maybe the 2 or 3 best highlight clips,
I think of Auntie Patty and I in the back of the bakery when they made those wedding cookies, and they had a huge vat of powdered sugar, and Patty and I were given the job of taking the trays of the cookies and putting them in, a certain amount of time, and then
Throwing them.
I could
we
spend
had so
an
much
hour.
fun though. We'd start, throwing
Yeah.
the powdered sugar at each other. It was Patty got me the job to begin with, so we'd have a fun time.
I'm just thinking. I mean, if Ronnie was sitting here, I could speak. I could speak for an hour to Ronnie and I just about experiences he and I had.
Yeah.
From the time we were little. Was
Your
People's-
cousin Ronnie has some very interesting stories.
Yeah.
all my friends there.
But
I mean,
cousin Ronnie,
Kenny, Richard.
Everybody. I mean, look, I talked to
Tony, Bruce.
Billy. I told Mom, I don't know if I told
Billy.
you, I talked to Billy, like, when are you free to come out here? Like, this is all set up, and Mitch is having a kid. And so he's going to fly to New York for the month of August, I think. So he said he'd come figure out something for him to come after. But I mean, like, I talked to Billy for 3.5, 4 hours on a phone call, and that's just about 2 or 3 things. I mean, there are certain people, obviously, I think you and I have, and probably some of those guys, like Billy has the ability. We could talk for 7 hours and, like, literally just sit here and talk, or go get food and pause things and come back, or take a break and come back. I mean, it doesn't have to necessarily be this continuous thing where everybody's prisoner, but it's to me, like, that's why I think it's so interesting to do it with you. Is I feel like those people are, like, you are the centerpiece, is the most interesting person, and those people are all very interesting too. And I feel like that's something that is unique. Like, I don't think that people have access to that kind of conversation. People like Billy's he's been a constant educational source for me throughout, and the way he teaches stuff is really cool, because he always tells me a story, and that story somehow segues back to answer the question. Like, instead of just being like, oh, you're breaking up with your girlfriend, this is what I tell you to do. It's like, oh, let me tell you about these 2 people. And when I, when I watched this thing happen, we had this, whole conversation. We went this way, and
Billy's a great storyteller.
all of a sudden you come back to, like, whoa, like, that just answered my question. Like, I am feeling totally satisfied with that. And it wasn't like, somebody trying to say, oh, here's this advice, and if you follow my advice and it goes bad for you, well, you got shitty advice and now you're mad at me. It's not a direct advice in that capacity. I mean, he'll do that too, but it's nice to have that.
Well, I'm just also trying to think. I mean, all these people that we're talking about are all have interesting stories, but I don't know how you get the stories out of them, and how you lead from what will trigger them to remember this or that or the other. What will be
for example, cousin Ronnie's 4th of July story.
I mean, look, part of it.
Did you ever hear that one?
No.
Oh, he had lobsters that he bought for these guys, this couple in a trailer park, and they're having lobster and all this kind of stuff, and the guy made a mistake during the conversation. I think he said something derogatory toward Jewish people. And when the party was over, Cousin Ronnie went away, and then he came back, and he said, I want my money back for the lobsters. And whatever he said following that conversation, the guy went and got the money and gave him $100 or whatever it was to Cousin Ronnie, and he went away. But this is a facet of your uncle or cousin.
Yeah, but I'm not sure how much.
No, but
the
I'm
thing
saying
is, what's interesting.
I'm saying
for someone else listening.
Ronnie wouldn't put up with, somebody getting away with a derogatory remark, and I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's
that
an interesting
story. To me,
Yeah,
it was a very interesting story that
so-
he went back.
Yeah.
And said, hey, that's not acceptable, and,
Yeah.
and the,
Well, so
the
as it-
money
but
for
as
the
it-
lobsters wasn't
right.
the point.
Yeah,
But
the
it was-
integrity
but it was-
of like
Right.
correcting
But as
somebody.
the interviewer, it's almost like you need to lead people, or
Yeah, well,
You
you
know,
and I would sit and go through, like, I have a list of questions. I didn't really keep it linear today because I got thrown off by the idea of, like, it being both of you. It kind of just distracted
Right.
things
More
and
difficult,
just made
yeah.
it. It's easier. I mean, it's easier to focus on one person
agree.
specifically.
Yeah.
It's also easier for me personally to just have a one-on-one conversation with somebody.
yeah, so you learned that today.
Yeah, well,
You
sure.
you probably knew that anyway, but I mean, it's hard with two people unless they're in business together.
Well, it's
and they're both giving you a similar perspective on
Yeah.
a topic.
Yeah. Or, I mean, in the case of doing this, like, series with you, with your friends, it's like we're interviewing one person together. They're not saying, all right, Neil, what was your thing in answer to this question as well? And I think that it just becomes you and I basically preface each person, okay, Billy's coming, let's make sure it will generally be kind of the same thing with, like, okay, where were you born and what was life like at that time and what were your first jobs? Like, those are things I find
But
interesting
that's
about
almost got to be on a
people.
one-on-one interview. I mean, for me to sit here
I've got an
while your
interesting
mom's
book.
talking, it's kind of it's not doesn't flow. I mean, I'm telling a story when I was up till I was 12. Your mom's telling a story when
Yeah,
her life,
totally.
her
I have to
personal
show you
life
the
before she
Proust-
was 16.
The Proust book at home. It's a questionnaire. It was given to me as a gift. It's a small, thin book, but it has questions in there that might trigger an interview for you.
I mean,
I'll
look,
show it to
all
you.
of it, like, the difference would just be if you and I were interviewing Mom right now, you wouldn't be interjecting with your story.
Right.
And we
Right.
would keep things more linear with
Right.
her. And
Yeah.
we'd
Right.
both be asking questions like, oh, you worked at a bakery. I'm curious what that was like. That may trigger a certain question for you, may trigger a different question for me. Like when you were talking about working, and doing like a paper route, it's like I would be more curious to say like, oh, is that something that you just like went and bought papers bulk from somebody, or do you have a boss? And like actually have like some form of like a linear trail on that, and then okay, you did that, and then what came next after that, and like there's a way we build, but ping ponging back and forth between two people
not
doing
good.
the same question is
Yeah.
impossible. Like
Yeah.
for me, I'm trying to think about, okay, well, we left off on this with her, and we left off on this with.
That's not going to work.
Yeah, it's not. And I think, a part of it is, like when we do it together, or even just from doing this, like a part of it for me is also figuring out like, okay, what do you find interesting? What would you find interesting for two people to be talking about? Like when you think of
Probably marriage.
learning about that was something, that was something definitely to go into, a bit more, like things that may draw people's like personality out a little bit more. Like if you talk about, I think it's like always kind of interesting to hear about like near death experiences people have had or something like that, because they usually bring back like a somewhat funny kind of memory. I mean, obviously some of them can be like traumatic, but it's a little bit like dry. At some point you want to figure out like how to get a little bit more excitement out of a conversation.
I don't know what. Again, what topics would a stranger be listening to this find that interesting?
That's the thing about all of it, though. You never know.
Like I said, I think the Proust questionnaire might be helpful here.
But I mean, like obviously we're like this specific version of this. I think would be too spastic for it to be interesting
Oh, yeah.
to somebody.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that you both have interesting stories to do more of a specific, one-on-one conversation, or, if we were to do this again, like, I know Mom didn't really want to be like on camera. So for me, it's like, to actually have you see like, oh, this isn't as bad as I thought. Now you could come do this, as a one-on-one thing with me one day, where we could do this a little bit more focused. And I think like the same, obviously with you, we can do this whenever, and I think it's a little easier.
Dad's easy.
Yeah, but
He's good,
but I'm trying to feel. I mean, I'm not really focused today. It's hard for me to. I'm trying to remember. As somebody said, tell me your life story.
Yeah.
And it's like, what part of it? Okay, I grew up
For
in
sure.
LA. Okay, I can make it 3 sentences.
Yeah.
But
Or
if I
3
say,
hours.
But yeah, or if I go into, if you ask, well, tell me about that experience, or what happened, what happened then, and how it would just. It's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, to recall 60 years of
Yeah, for sure.
stuff
Yeah.
is a lot.
Yeah, and I think that part of it will be, I mean, like, obviously with you and I, I don't know, the age range could be literally any age range, or the amount of experiences. I mean, some of the artists I've worked with have done pretty extensive things with their lives.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff to try to pack in, even just talking about how they went from creating music for the first time to being center stage at the Grammys,
Right.
and the NBA Finals halftime performance.
There's certainly an art for your interviewees to be able to tell an interesting story too.
Yeah,
Because they may have a lot of stuff to talk about, but sorting out as they're talking
yeah,
in real time what's interesting.
We didn't even talk about Dad's, charity work.
Yeah.
I mean, the charity
Yeah.
work we both did over the course of time.
yeah. I mean, look, we didn't like this.
Right.
Was not something like at best there might be a couple clips that we made that would be like, okay, cool, this is
This is just
a good
this is
clip.
just
This is
anything set up.
yeah. I mean, look, I want to see, like, part of me, I've never had this equipment on for this long. Like,
Right.
we're obviously now dealing with like how much noise has been, outside noise has been, I mean, this car bus thing that just went
Yeah.
by. So this is still going. It's been 1 hour and 7 minutes.
Okay.
I mean, it probably feels longer than that to me. I don't know how it feels to you
longer than that
guys.
me too.
Yeah.
But I'm ready.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
You have a bottle of water I can take? Or?
Yeah.
Nick, I have a question.